Hey everybody, welcome to today's video. Today we're going to be going over my top 5 bench tips to help you grow your bench and so you can hit that PR in the next couple of weeks or months. Now my own bench story has been one that has gone through some ups and downs. Starting at my first competition, I hit just below a 314 pound bench and it's grown over 400 pounds today. And that's just been over the past 2 years. And today I'm going to be sharing some of the tips that I've taken into consideration while programming and planning out my bench sessions, and some of the tips I've learned over time that have helped me best mentally prepare to go and hit big benches and what I need to do to perform my best when I'm going for those PRs. There's a ton of factors that play into your individual bench setup and progression, some of which are training age, how long your arms are, what kind of genetics do you have? Are you already good at bench, or do you have room to grow? How technically proficient are you already? All these factors can influence how much you're going to be able to bench on the top end and how much progress you can expect to see in the acute time periods and further out time periods as well. The reason I am making this video is because over the past week or so, I've had 2 or 3 people come up to me in the gym and ask, how can I grow my bench? And I've been just giving them these tips, so I thought I'd just make a video and explain in video format how I have grown my bench over time and how I think other people can learn from what I've done. And it's not like these are any game-changing tips, but I just want to get that word out there for for future reference. So instead of having to repeat the story, you can go check out this video. So my first bench tip that I tell everyone when they come to me asking, how can I grow my bench, is to simply bench more. My first question I ask them is, how much do you bench? Or how many days a week do you bench? And I generally get an answer like 1 or 2 days a week, and maybe an accessory like an incline one day or a dumbbell bench another day. And I'm like, cool. So what is your goal? Is your goal to go and PR your bench? Is that your main goal? Because if that's the case, we're going to need to increase those numbers in order to increase your bench. So if your main goal is to increase your bench press, and if you are watching this video, I'm assuming that is your main goal right now, is to increase your bench press, I would say bench more is my main tip. If you're benching 2 or 3 times a week, that's could be sufficient for yourself, given your training history and given what is going through your training right now. But I would say I started off benching 2 days a week, and I was in the mid 200 when I first started training. I was in the mid 200s for my bench, and I was just sitting there for a while, just benching two days a week or so. It wasn't until I started picking up some programs, some free programs online that had me benching 4 or 5 days a week, is when my bench shot up. So my main tip for you is, if you're in a bench plateau or you really want to increase your bench in a hurry, is to bench more frequently than you are now. If you're benching 3 times a week, try benching 4. If you're benching 2 days a week, try benching 3. Keep it pretty similar programming. If you have 3 days a week bench, have a hypertrophy day. So say, for example, a 3x10 on bench, and then you have a medium day. You could hit like a 3x5, and then you could have a heavy day where you could hit a heavy single or double, and then you can have some back offs. You can really just plan it around what your goals are and what you want to do. But I would say increasing the number of days a week that you bench, tip number 1. Now my second tip for growing your bench is to periodize training. You don't want to be maxing out your bench every single session that you go into the gym. I'm pretty sure we've all done this when we first started training, and we got that feeling that you like to go heavy. You just try to go in and PR every single time you go to the gym, which when you're first starting to go and you get all these newbie gains and you're hitting these PRs, it's really easy to get caught in that mindset where whenever I go to bench, I'm just going to go PR. And over time, that's just going to go away. That's not the case. And once you hit that intermediate stage, those PRs are going to become less and less, and you're going to have to build up to them instead of just walking into the gym every day and hitting those. And it doesn't have to be something super sophisticated. Something like a 4-week block where you start off with some hypertrophy, like say you do, like, for example, say you hit a heavy set of 4 1 week, and then a heavy set of 3, and then a heavy set of 2, and increase weight every week. Something like that could suffice for an intermediate. It doesn't have to be something super crazy in terms of, you don't need a programming wizard to get you gains as a intermediate or even as an advanced lifter. All the same principles of strength, of growing strength and growing your lifts apply at an intermediate, elite level, or a beginner level. It's all the same. So that's my second tip, is to periodize your training and making sure you're not just going YOLO every time you go into the gym. My third tip is to add variations to your bench press. This could look like picking out lifts that target the weak points of your bench press. So say you're weak off the chest. That generally means at the bottom, that's going to be a limitation on your pectoral muscles coming off the chest, depending on your grip width a little bit. So I would say if you're hard off the chest, staying more time and focusing on that sticking point could really help you burst through that sticking point and get to the rest of your lift where you're stronger. Sometimes, however, if that's the case, sometimes just normal benching can help you a lot. But in that same situation where you say you are sticking off the chest, doing some pause benches or doing some wide grip bench and targeting that sticking point can really help you bust through that point. And same thing, say if if your sticking point is right at the top or right when you're trying to lock out, that seems to be a lack of strength from the triceps. And what should you do? You should probably target that weakness and do some narrow grip bench or do some Larson press, something that's going to target those triceps more than just a normal bench press. But until you've been stuck for a while, I would suggest doing my first tip, benching more instead of just jumping right to variations. However, if you have decided to bench more frequently and you are periodizing your training and you're still hitting those bench plateaus with your sleep and your diet and your nutrition good, I would suggest adding some bench variations that do target those weaknesses in your bench. My fourth tip is to pick a setup and stick with it. I've seen too many people at the gym, in powerlifting specifically, try to jump between setups because they saw their favorite powerlifter change setups, or they tweak one thing, or they just get wound up in the setup. And in my opinion, it's more important that you pick a setup and stick with it and repeat that setup over and over and over again until you really perfect your setup before you start messing with it too much. You want to be comfortable and confident with what you have going on right now before you start messing with it. Once you do perfect it, once you do feel comfortable in that setup you have, start making just minor adjustments over time to see if there's something that will stick. For example, one thing that I've changed over the previous year with my bench is grip width. I before had a really narrow grip where I had my pinkies on the ring, and I was really comfortable with that grip. I had used that since for as far as I can remember for a long time. And over time, over the course of 6 months, I only moved out 2 fingers. Now I have my middle finger on the ring. And those are just small incremental changes that I think have really grown my bench over time. Don't try to make 1,000 little adjustments every time you go into bench, or else you'll be like a baseball player who's trying to switch up their swing every time they come up to the plate. You want to have that concrete foundation that you're super comfortable with, and then make minor alterations to it to best fit what you think is going to increase your bench the most. My fifth tip for growing your bench is to make the one thing the one thing. Since you're watching this video, I'm assuming that the biggest thing you want to do right now is to increase your total and increase your bench press. So instead of trying to divide your training into a bunch of different avenues and efforts, make bench pressing big, the one thing, the priority of your training. First thing you should do when you go to the gym is go warm up and bench press. Don't go squat, don't go deadlift, don't go do these other things. Go and bench press. If that's your one goal, if that's your one thing, that if you had that one thing, all else it wouldn't matter. Go and bench press. Make that the priority. Deliver all your focus and all your will onto the bench press, and then go to the other stuff after you finish the one thing, which is the bench press. Don't divide your effort into these different avenues. Make sure that you're making the one thing the one thing. And within that, going to the 80-20 principle, you get 80% of your results from 20% of the effort that you put into something. So what are the things that are going to make your bench grow the most? The number one thing I can think of that's made my bench press grow the most is making sure that I treat heavy sets, say it's a set of 4, that every rep is like a single. And I just imagine myself in competition and I'm going down, hitting that single, coming back up. But instead of racking, I just go another single. Putting that mental clarity and mental focus into making each rep look like it's the most important rep is the one thing, and what has produced most results in my bench press over the past couple months or so, especially since my bench press has grown. I've hit a couple different PRs and gotten my bench press up to 405 pounds, is making sure that every single rep you do, imagine that that's going to be your next PR, and all the technical cues that you need to do to make sure that that rep is going to move as smoothly as possible, to hit all those and make sure that you're killing each rep. That concludes my 5 tips for growing my bench press and growing your bench press. If I missed any of the cues that you like or you think that I should know about, feel free to leave those down below because I'd love to see them. Thanks for tuning in to today's video. I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.